There's a silent place inside every human being, a place that does not speak in words, yet determines everything we say. It's the unseen territory of the mind, where forgotten memories breathe and unspoken desires move in the dark. Freud called this place the unconscious, and although it's been more than a century since he first described it, most of us still live as strangers to it. We think we know who we are. But what if the person we claim to be is just the surface of something much deeper? What if our choices, our loves, our fears, and our losses are only the visible waves of an ocean we cannot see? Freud dared to dive into that ocean. At a time when science was obsessed with the visible and the measurable, he looked toward the invisible. He listened to silence. He studied dreams, slips of the tongue, strange symptoms, and the fragile confessions of people who came to him without knowing exactly why they were suffering. He believed that beneath every rational story we tell about ourselves, there hides another story, the real one. And he was right. When we think of Freud, we often imagine a man with a beard and a cigar, sitting behind a couch, asking about dreams. But to truly understand what he knew, we must go beyond that cliché. Freud was not merely a doctor of the mind. He was an explorer of the soul, a cartographer of the invisible. He knew that the mind was not a machine that could be repaired, but a labyrinth that needed to be understood. There's a strange kind of suffering that lives in the human heart, the suffering that has no clear name or reason. You can have everything and still feel an emptiness that swallows you. You can be surrounded by love and still feel alone. You can repeat the same mistakes in love, work, or friendship, even when you swear you'll never do it again. Freud saw this and recognized that something inside us keeps replaying old dramas. It's as if the unconscious holds a script written long ago, and no matter how much we try to improvise, the same scenes return. Before we go deeper, take a breath. Think about this. How many times have you found yourself reacting to something, a word, a look, a tone of voice, and suddenly felt an emotion that seemed too big for the moment? Anger that felt ancient, sadness that didn't fit the present, a fear that came from nowhere. Freud would say, that's the past, trying to speak again. He believed that childhood is not just a phase we outgrow, it's the foundation of everything we become. Every unspoken pain, every unfulfilled desire, every misunderstood emotion leaves a trace in the unconscious. These traces do not disappear. They transform into dreams, symptoms, habits, even physical sensations. They become the language through which our unconscious communicates, and most of the time we ignore it. But the unconscious never stops speaking. It speaks when you forget a name. It speaks when you dream of something strange. It speaks when your heart tightens for no reason. It speaks in the tremble of your voice when you lie to yourself. Freud listened to this language and realized that the mind is not logical, it's poetic. It works through symbols, metaphors, and disguises. It hides what it cannot face and reveals it indirectly, as if the truth could only survive if it wears a mask. If you're still here with me, listening to these words, it's because something in you recognizes this mystery. We all have it. The secret life that lives behind our thoughts. The quiet child inside us who still waits to be understood. And maybe that's why Freud's work remains alive, because he didn't just talk about theories, he talked about us. Before we go further into Freud's discoveries, let me gently invite you to be part of this journey. If you're drawn to exploring the hidden depths of the mind, to understanding why we love the way we love and suffer the way we suffer, consider subscribing. Not as a follower, but as a companion on this path of self-discovery. Together, we can bring light to the places that once felt too dark to enter. Now, let's return to the story. When Freud began his work, the world was not ready. The late 19th century believed in progress, science, rationality. The unconscious didn't fit into that vision. Yet patients came to him with symptoms that defied all logic. paralysis without cause, blindness without injury, pain without physical explanation. Medicine could not find an answer, but Freud suspected that these symptoms were not lies, they were messages. The body, he realized, was speaking what the mouth could not say. He noticed that when patients talked freely, without censorship, without trying to sound reasonable, their pain began to make sense. Stories emerged, memories resurfaced, and emotions long buried came back like ghosts asking to be heard. This was the birth of psychoanalysis, the idea that healing happens not by erasing pain, but by listening to it. It's a radical thought even today. We live in an age that tells us to move on, to stay positive, to fix ourselves quickly. But Freud's insight was the opposite. Don't run from your darkness, understand it, because what we repress doesn't disappear. It waits. Maybe that's why his ideas still disturb us. They remind us that control is an illusion, that beneath the surface of our normal lives, there's a current of desires and fears we cannot fully command. But that doesn't mean we are doomed. On the contrary, Freud believed that self-awareness, knowing the forces that shape us, gives us freedom. You cannot change what you refuse to see. Have you ever wondered why certain patterns keep repeating in your life? Why you fall in love with the same kind of person even when it hurts? Why you sabotage opportunities that you desperately want? Freud would say, repetition is not coincidence. It's a memory trying to find resolution, and maybe that's the real mystery of the human mind. Not that it hides secrets, but that it keeps trying to heal them. When Freud turned his attention to dreams, he entered a territory that no scientist of his time dared to take seriously. Dreams were seen as meaningless, as random images thrown together by a sleeping brain. But Freud saw something else. He saw the logic of the unconscious, a secret grammar of desire, pain, and memory. He realized that every dream, no matter how absurd, was a disguised wish, a fragment of truth hidden beneath layers of symbols. To him, the dream was not an escape from reality. It was the most honest expression of it. He began to listen to dreams the way a poet listens to verses, not for literal meaning, but for emotional resonance. A house was not just a house. A staircase, a door, a forgotten face, all of them were metaphors. The unconscious could not speak directly, so it created stories, using the language of imagination. In dreams, everything that was forbidden, repressed, or too painful to acknowledge in waking life found a way to exist. The dream was a compromise between the part of us that wants to express and the part that wants to hide. Imagine for a moment your own dreams, those strange scenes that fade when you wake, the faces you half remember, the sensations that make no sense. Freud would say, don't dismiss them. Ask what they're trying to tell you, because the unconscious never wastes its breath. But there's a catch. The unconscious doesn't speak the language of logic or morality. It doesn't care about right or wrong. It cares about truth. And truth, when it first emerges, can be frightening. We may find in our dreams impulses we don't want to admit. Jealousy, anger, forbidden love, fear of abandonment. Freud understood that these feelings are not proof of evil or weakness. They are proof of humanity. The problem is not that we have dark desires, it's that we pretend we don't. This is what Freud knew that no one else noticed. Repression is not forgetting, it's remembering in disguise. When we repress something, it doesn't vanish. It becomes a ghost that haunts us from within. It shows up in our habits, our mistakes, our illnesses, our silences. We spend years fighting symptoms without realizing that what we're truly fighting is memory. There's a story Freud once told about a patient who couldn't stop washing her hands. She thought it was about cleanliness, but it wasn't. Through their sessions, Freud discovered that the ritual was her unconscious attempt to cleanse herself from a guilt she didn't understand. She wasn't washing her hands. She was trying to wash away a feeling, The act was symbolic. The unconscious was speaking through behavior, and once she could see what it meant, the compulsion lost its power. We might not wash our hands like her, but each of us has our own way of repeating what we haven't understood. We overwork, overthink, overeat, overlove, overplease. We numb ourselves not because we are weak, but because something inside us is trying to protect us from feeling too much. Freud called this the defense mechanism, the mind's way of keeping us safe from the unbearable. But what was meant to protect us can also imprison us. The more we repress, the less alive we feel. Freud's greatest insight wasn't about pathology, it was about humanity. He saw that beneath every symptom, there is a story longing to be heard. Beneath every fear, there is a wounded child longing to be seen. He wasn't just treating patients, he was teaching us to listen to ourselves with compassion. Pause for a second. Take this moment to reflect. What is your unconscious trying to say to you? Is there something in your life that keeps repeating, something that feels familiar even when you wish it didn't? Sometimes the repetition is the unconscious whispering, "Please, look at me." I want to invite you now to take part in this conversation. Freud believed that sharing our inner worlds is a form of healing. So I'll ask you, what emotion do you keep revisiting, even when you try to move on? Write it in the comments, and if you're not sure how to begin, you can start with this simple phrase, "I think my unconscious is trying to tell me that." Copy and paste it if you like, and complete it in your own words. It may sound small, but it's a step toward listening to the part of yourself that has waited too long to be heard. Now let's return to Freud. He often said that the goal of analysis is not to make the unconscious conscious all at once. That would be too painful. Instead, it's to make what is unconscious less unconscious, to bring fragments into awareness gradually, so that the person can bear their own truth without breaking. For Freud, healing was not about perfection, it was about integration. This is something we've forgotten today. We live in a culture that demands happiness as if it were a permanent state, that sells quick fixes for the soul, that tells us to erase our pain. But Freud would remind us, you cannot heal what you refuse to feel. Pain is not the enemy. It's the teacher. It's the voice of the unconscious calling you back to what matters most. He used to compare the psyche to an iceberg. The visible part, the conscious mind, is small. The vast, invisible part, the unconscious, lies beneath the surface. Most of our lives are guided by that submerged mass, our instincts, our early attachments, our unspoken fears. The conscious mind believes it's in control, but in truth, it's like a sailor navigating a sea whose depths he doesn't understand. The waves that move us are ancient. This is what Freud saw, that we are not rational beings with occasional emotions, but emotional beings who sometimes manage to be rational. Our logic is built on our longings. Our morality is shaped by our fears. The unconscious is not an enemy to be conquered, but a force to be befriended. In his later years, Freud reflected that civilization itself is built on repression, that society demands we control our instincts in order to live together. But the cost of that control is inner conflict. We build order on top of chaos, reason on top of desire. We learn to smile when we want to scream, to behave when we want to run. The result is a world that looks peaceful on the surface, but trembles underneath. And that trembling, that quiet tension between who we are and who we pretend to be, is the essence of being human. Freud didn't want to eliminate it. He wanted us to understand it, to live with awareness instead of denial. Because in that awareness lies freedom. The freedom to choose differently, to love consciously, to forgive ourselves for being imperfectly human. It's easy to misunderstand Freud, to think of him only as the man who talked about sexuality or dreams. But that's not the heart of his message. His message was this: you are not just what you think you are. You are a story, written partly by your conscious mind and partly by forces that began before you could speak. To know yourself is to read that story honestly, without fear. Sometimes when people ask what Freud really discovered, I say this: he discovered that the human mind is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. And that mystery, with all its pain, beauty, and contradiction, is what makes life worth understanding. There's a quiet tragedy in every human life, the realization that no matter how much we grow, part of us remains the same child, waiting for something we never quite received. Freud saw this clearly. He understood that love, in all its forms, is haunted by memory. We seek in others what we once sought from our first caretakers: warmth, recognition, safety. And when we don't find it, or when love becomes complicated, the pain that emerges is not just about the present, it's the echo of the past. Freud called this transference. It means that we don't love others as they are. We love them through the lens of our history. Every relationship, whether romantic, friendly, or familial, becomes a mirror reflecting something old. That's why love feels both so new and so familiar. It awakens our earliest hopes and our deepest fears. When someone withdraws affection, the child inside us panics, as if we were once again left alone in the dark. When someone embraces us, that same child feels saved. Freud didn't see this as a weakness. He saw it as the core of human connection. To love is to relive. But this reliving can be painful, because the unconscious does not differentiate between then and now. When you feel rejected today, it might be your mind reliving a rejection from decades ago. When you cling to someone, it might be your younger self holding on to a parent who once felt distant. Freud's insight was that we can't escape these patterns by willpower alone. We can only transform them through understanding, by bringing the unconscious story into the light, by recognizing the invisible author behind our emotions. He once said, "We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love." And yet, he also knew that love is the only way we truly heal. Because love exposes us. It forces the unconscious to speak. In the tenderness of intimacy, in the vulnerability of heartbreak, the deepest parts of us awaken. That's why relationships often bring out both the best and the worst in us. They are the stage where the unconscious comes alive. Freud's later writings became darker, more philosophical. He began to see the human psyche as a battleground between two fundamental forces: eros, the drive toward life, connection, creation, and thanatos, the drive toward death, destruction, dissolution. Every human being, he thought, carries both within. We build and we destroy, we love and we fear, we cling and we let go. This duality is not a flaw, it's the rhythm of existence itself. When Freud wrote about thanatos, the death drive, he wasn't being morbid, he was being honest. He saw that the mind sometimes turns against itself, that we sabotage our own happiness, return to pain, or repeat self-destructive cycles without knowing why. He believed this repetition was the psyche's attempt to master trauma, to control what once felt uncontrollable, but in trying to master it, we often relive it. The repetition is both a wound and a wish, a wound that wants to heal, and a wish to rewrite the past. If you've ever wondered why it's so hard to break free from certain habits, certain relationships, certain patterns of thought, this is why. The unconscious is not logical. It doesn't care about progress or resolution. It wants familiarity. It wants to return to what it knows, even if what it knows is pain. That's the paradox Freud revealed. Sometimes we choose suffering because it feels like home. But there's hope in this knowledge. Because once we see the pattern, once we name the unconscious force behind it, it loses some of its power. We begin to act, not just react. We begin to live consciously. That's what Freud meant by insight, not an intellectual realization, but a shift in being. The moment you say, "I understand why I do this," you open a small space between your past and your present. And in that space, freedom begins. Freud's work wasn't about analyzing endlessly. It was about remembering truthfully. He believed that every person carries within them the fragments of their own cure, that what we repress in fear can become the key to our liberation if we have the courage to face it. To know your unconscious is to meet yourself without disguise. And that is one of the hardest, most beautiful things a human being can do. He also warned that self-knowledge comes with a cost, the loss of innocence. Once you see your own motives, your defenses, your inner conflicts, you can't unsee them. But what you gain is authenticity, the ability to live your own life instead of repeating someone else's story. That's the quiet revolution Freud began, the shift from being driven by our past to becoming aware of it. There's a famous line attributed to him, "Where it was, their ego shall be." It means that the conscious self must expand into the territory once ruled by the unconscious, that light must enter the darkness, not to destroy it, but to understand it. Freud didn't believe in erasing the unconscious, he believed in befriending it. The mind, he thought, is not a war to be won, but a conversation to be had. In the end, Freud's greatest contribution wasn't a set of theories, but a way of listening. He taught us to listen to our dreams, to our slips of the tongue, to our pain, to the silence between our words. He taught us that meaning hides in the smallest details, that what seems trivial may be the clue to something profound. Most importantly, he taught us to listen to ourselves with compassion, because the unconscious is not the enemy. It's the forgotten child still knocking at the door, waiting to be heard. If you've ever felt broken, confused, or lost in your own mind, know this: Freud would not have judged you. He would have listened. He would have asked you to speak freely, to follow your thoughts wherever they lead, even if they seem strange or shameful. Because he knew that beneath every shame, there's a truth longing for air. Beneath every symptom, there's a story that wants to be told. So maybe the mystery of the human mind is not about complexity at all. Maybe it's about courage, the courage to face what we've hidden. Freud didn't give us easy answers, but he gave us the map. And if we follow it, if we dare to descend into our own depths, we might find that the monsters we fear are simply parts of ourselves waiting to come home. The unconscious, in the end, is not darkness. It's the night sky, vast, mysterious, filled with stars we have yet to name. As we reach the end of this journey, I want to remind you that understanding yourself is not a destination. It's a lifelong process. Each insight is a small light in the labyrinth. Each time you pause and listen to what your emotions are trying to say, you move closer to yourself. Freud's work was never about becoming perfect. It was about becoming whole. If you found something in this reflection that speaks to you, if a part of you feels seen or softened, consider joining this space. Subscribe, not because you need answers, but because you deserve companionship on this path. Every week, we dive into the hidden layers of the human heart, guided by the timeless wisdom of psychology and the gentle curiosity that Freud taught us to cultivate. You don't have to explore the unconscious alone. We can do it together. Because, in the end, Freud's message wasn't just about theory. It was about empathy, about the radical act of listening to others and to ourselves. And maybe that's what no one else noticed. That understanding the human mind is not about controlling it, but about loving it, even in its contradictions. The mystery of the mind is not something to solve, it's something to embrace. And in that embrace, we rediscover what it means to be human.